Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I want to talk to you today about whether you feel that, your anger, your anxiety is controlling your life and your behaviours, or whether you feel like you're in control. So, are your emotions controlling you, or can you manage and express them in a way, that you're happy with in your everyday life? And if you're anything like I was, the answer to that would have been a very firm no before I started my healing journey. So I want to just talk to you about that today, and what we can do to actually help ourselves to bring that back to a space of having a life that we are happy to live, happy to be in, feeling at peace, feeling calm, feeling stillness, stillness in our body and our mind, rather than this constant sort of stress that's happening. So just to kind of introduce I guess my story to you so that this makes some sort of sense. My healing journey started about 15 years ago, and I was in that space of chronic insomnia, anxiety, anger, so many destructive behaviors going on. Life just felt like it was falling apart. On paper, everything looked great. In reality, I felt like I was losing everything and I had no control. My life was just chaotic, confusing, no control. I felt I had no control. I couldn't accept, the good things in my life. I couldn't receive those good things that were in my life as well, because everything was so damn chaotic. So my anxiety, my anger was absolutely controlling my life, my behaviours, which was obviously having a knock-on effect for everything. There was so much drama in my life. And essentially, in the same way that it won't be, that it's, same for you, it essentially wasn't my fault, because all of these things were a trauma response for me. And I talk a lot about trauma. When I talk about trauma, I need to kind of let people know that whilst it sounds like, it's a big word, and it tends to mean, that trauma tends to mean big events, big experiences for people when we hear that word. But just know as well that the majority of people are traumatized to a certain extent. I'm not saying that to scare anybody, but I'm saying it so we can help ourselves. And even from the sort of seemingly smaller events in life. So I talk about helping my clients to discover and resolve, correct what's been spoilt for them on life's journey so far. Okay, so this is what it's all about. So if you think about the word trauma and think, no, I'm not traumatized, I haven't had anything big happen in my life, then just keep an open mind to this, because there may well be a trauma response happening in your mind and body without you actually knowing about it. And actually, that was the space for me. Even though I knew that I had a traumatic experience happen when I was really little, I didn't understand that I was still traumatized, 20 years on, decades on. So what to do if we feel like we are out of control, our emotions are managing us. Why are we there in the first place, I guess? So the reason we can be living like that, we can, learn to live like that, we are living like that, is because basically our subconscious is running a lot of fear programs. A lot of automatic programs will be running for us because we've learnt to be fearful, to some painful things in our life's journey so far. And what happens is, once the subconscious learns those, it is going to keep recreating those same experiences for us, even if what's actually happening in our world is nowhere, it doesn't necessarily need to be anywhere near, the sort of lessons that it's learned previously. So You know, anxiety is about kind of living in the future, imagining what's going to happen in the future because something, you know, unpleasant has happened to us in the past. So that's what that is. It's imagining what's going to come as opposed to being able to live in our present moment. Okay, so a lot of my work is about helping my clients come from that, you know, return from that space of stress to stillness, you know, taking the chaos and the confusion out of life to come back to this present moment of calm. You know, we only have this present moment in time. So to be, you know, to be either sort of feeling anxious about what might be happening in the future or feeling depressed about what's happened in the past, that's not, whilst it very much is our reality because we're living it, it's not reality as well, if you understand what I'm saying. You know, the only really real moment that we have is our present moment in time. That's where our power sits. So we can resolve these things and we can resolve our emotions running us, but we first need to understand it. So we need to understand that these programs are lodged in the subconscious, and until we can get in and resolve them, they are going to keep running because our subconscious is all about protecting us. That's our primary, you know, its primary function is to protect us in life, and it will do that from what it's learned. So when I work with my clients, we go in, the first thing we do is we discover why, you know, using anxiety and anger as examples, we discover why they're there in the first place, why these symptoms are coming up and so strongly for us, what those programs are that have been put in place. You know, where did that happen? Where did they come from? What was the first or the worst time something happened to us that created this, you know, big emotion that's coming up for us? And the thing is that when we talk about these emotions as well, particularly if we've had something happen in our childhood, which again, remember, we may not necessarily know now, but it's got locked into the subconscious. That emotion gets locked in at the age that it happened and effectively can't grow up with us. Okay, so that is why, you know, our emotions can be so explosive, you know, and why they can completely control and actually wreck our lives. You know, my anger, all of it, anger, anxiety, you know, insomnia, absolutely wrecked, you know, my relationships, absolutely impacted my work. You know, I was working in corporate in those days, and, you know, everything was falling apart because my emotions were running me and not, you know, the other way around. So we can go in, we can discover why that's happening in the first place, and then we then work out, you know, what to do with it next. So we then challenge it. We then look at, you know, what we need to accept of it, what we need to challenge, you know, to work through as well, actually, is this working for us in our adult lives now? You know, 99% of the time, no. So let's then go on to correct it. Okay. So this is all about discovering, challenging and correcting what is happening in my client's world. And all of this work I have, you know, experienced myself. So all of my work that I do now with my clients is taken from my 15 years of my own healing experience. So I know what works, I know what doesn't work. I know that, you know, counselling, talking therapies, CBT, anything that is working with the conscious mind is not going to release the root cause of these emotions. So that is why it's so important to be working with the right therapy as well, and not sitting there talking about the same things, you know, weeks, months, years later. You can use the two combined, hypnotherapy and counselling combined, you know, is a good mix, is a nice mix to work with. But if you're going to do one or the other, get in with something that looks, you know, that dives straight into the subconscious to get to the root cause of the issue. And that's what my work does, as I say. So let's get into that space of being able to feel like, you know, we can express and manage our emotions effectively, because we want to be able to have emotions. You know, anger is a really valid emotion. So we want to be able to have it and express it. But equally, we need to be doing it in a constructive way for us, so that we're happy in our own lives now. I was going to say something else about anger then. it's gone. So, you know, if you feel like you're out of control, then know that that is absolutely normal. That's what I was going to say about anger. Anger is a very valid emotion to come up if you have felt powerless, helpless in life. You know, my experience was childhood sexual abuse. So absolutely, you know, I didn't understand that anger would, you know, was a very valid emotion coming from that space, but it was so, you know, there was so much of it, and it was so big, and that was partly because it was left for, you know, 20 years. I couldn't find the right thing to help myself for a long space of time. I'd certainly looked to myself for sort of 7 years or so and tried counselling and medication, and it was just the wrong thing. So that's another thing. If you don't catch hold of these and resolve them, you know, potentially, most likely, they're going to get worse over time as well. So please don't leave them. Please give me a shout. You know that you can come back to feeling in control of these emotions and actually be able to, you know, feel like you're expressing and managing your emotions effectively. And also, you know, getting rid of symptoms. We do not have to live with anxiety. We do not have to have that as a label. So many people label themselves as, I am anxious, I have anxiety. That doesn't have to be the case. We don't have to manage it. We don't have to cope with it. We can absolutely resolve it. So give me a shout, and we can talk about what's happening for you, and actually talk about how I can help you with resolving these issues for yourself as well.